Yeah, ask him to identify himself. If that's Steve, then Mr. Deputy Mayor, when they vote, you're gonna have to specifically ask Steve Bjorkman how he votes.
Councillor Bjorkman, are you the one that's phoned in at the 257-4344 number?
Yep, that's me.
Thank you.
So yeah, you just want to have a visual. So.
Check. Everybody's here.
Yeah, so next time.
Is that you, administrator?
I'm not.
Someone from council.
Who's that? Do you have a list?
Sure.
This person?
Well, that's Tony then.
That's me. Yeah, he's one of the consultants.
Hello, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Just as a point of order, do you want me to actually speak with you? Say all in favor?
Yeah. Yes, Councillor Bjork. I was just saying that to the deputy mayor that when there's any votes, either you would announce your vote or the deputy mayor would specifically ask you.
Perfect.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock and it looks like when everyone's here, so we'll get started. Call the order to meeting. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest? See anyone motioning yes? So looking for adoption of the published agenda for this evening. Moved by Councillor Bowman and supported by Councillor Guerin. All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. So we have a public presentation tonight. I think we all know that that's what's happening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this over to Chris for introductions. Thank you. Chris?
Perfect. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm pleased to bring Strategy Core here tonight to discuss the current state report, at least the phase 1 of our service delivery review. As you know, the town of Essex engaged Strategy Core to conduct a service delivery review as part of the province of Ontario's municipal modernization program. So the review that they have taken on over the past several months really focuses on identifying opportunities to modernize and share delivery processes and procedures. So not just internally, but also externally. So, and the anticipation of that is to reduce expenditures and required resources over time. This project falls in line with our commitment, both council's commitment and administration's commitment to improve our services for our residents and our citizens for their day-to-day lives. So this is the first phase of the work. It focused on the development of this current state report. The current state report was attached for your review. It's a lengthy document, but a lot of it is information that council has heard over the years, right? It's assessing our municipal environment. So looking at our statistics on population, our financing, our debt levels, our staffing levels. Strategy Core has looked at that as strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. From that, they look to build a thorough understanding of the town's municipal services and delivery models. So they interviewed council, they interviewed staff at all levels, from director to operator. They talked about those delivery models. What are things that we could, what we could do better? Where do you see opportunities for some improvement or some, consolidation of services? So we've also compared how Essex compares to its peer municipalities and beyond Essex County. So not just in Essex County, we looked at peer municipalities outside of Essex County. So what are municipalities that have similar features to Essex, right? Similar in size, similar in level of service, whether they have 1 or 2 arenas, 1 or 2 fire halls, 3 fire halls, those types of things. From that, they've identified some potential improvement opportunities, including a greater regional collaboration, which is a real high stress point for the province. And those are things that they're going to further explore in the next phase of the engagement. So the purpose of Strategy Core coming tonight is to provide council an overview of the report, kind of a preview of coming attractions. They're going to take any questions or comments that council has based on this discussion, and they're going to shape and better scope the next phase of work that's coming. So on that note, I want to introduce the consultant team. So Strategy Core, as I noted, Chris Loretto is the principal at Strategy Core. I'm going to have him introduce his team when he comes on, but he's been our main point of contact in terms of framing this report and back and forth over the past several months. So I'm going to let Chris take the baton right now. I think in terms of if council has questions, ask, interrupt as the process is going. I guess there's no reason for council to wait at the end. I think ask, and interrupt, and we'll have a better discussion, I think, as a result of it. So on that note, again, Chris, welcome. I appreciate you being here, you and the team.
Thank you.
And I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris, member of council. It's members of council. It's great to be here with everybody. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend and isn't in too much of a turkey coma to consume this presentation. I'm pleased to be here with my colleagues, Lauren Wyman, who's been our project manager on this engagement, as well as Umar Sheikh and Yael Boyd, who have been analysts on this project, and our senior advisor, Tony Hudat, who may be familiar to many of you around this table. What we're going to do is we've given everybody the full copy of the current state report, but we've put together an executive level presentation for the purposes of walking you through kind of the main findings of the report and what we're proposing to look at in more detail in the third phase of this project. But we're prepared to answer any and all questions you have on the entirety of the report. And as Chris said, as we go through this, I will stop at the end of the presentation of each page to allow time for members of council to ask questions of us. So very much looking forward to the discussion. The discussion we do have today, Chris quite rightly noted that we'll be taking your feedback to further refine our thinking about high potential opportunities that we want to delve into more deeply in phase 2. Let me start by just saying what this current state report is and what it isn't. It's a current state report because we are working really hard through our interviews with you and senior administration, looking at you in the context of your peer comparators that we identified, and understanding how the administration delivers services to really get a feel for the place. And as we were going through that process, beginning to identify what we think are opportunities for improvement in the overall administration. And so today we have some 30 plus recommendations in total. Some are cut across the enterprise. Some are departmental specific. Some go beyond your borders, looking at more shared service opportunities with some of your neighbors in Essex County. Everything that we identify here as opportunities remain with you to consider. But what we do in the next phase is we take a subset of those 30 plus recommendations and work those up in some detail because we believe they probably yield the highest potential opportunity for either savings or efficiency for the administration. It doesn't mean the other recommendations or the other opportunities for improvement go away, but what we do is we leave those with you and administration to incorporate it into your own strategic planning, your own operational planning, to figure out how you might best go about those and build a continuous improvement culture within the organization. And so where we're at is at the current state assessment, and we want to share with you what we believe we understand about the municipality, what we've learned about the municipality, and where we do see the opportunities for improvement to get your feedback on those. And we went about understanding the current state of the organization by looking at your operating environment, and doing a bit of a SWOT analysis on you based on what we've come to know about you and what we're seeing in the municipal landscape more generally. We worked through to really understand the town's municipal services and delivery models. We've developed service profiles for each and every service that the town delivers, and so that gives us and should give you some real insight into what you deliver and how you deliver it, and to what level of service that you deliver those, and what you're paying to have what you're paying to deliver, or what you're budgeting to deliver those services. We also looked at you in the context of peer municipalities, as Chris noted, both within Essex County, looking and comparing you against your neighbors, Amherstburg, Kingsville, Leamington. We also went beyond the county to add an additional comparator in Strathroy, Cardick, and Tilsonburg. We deliberately chose those based on a set of criteria that are outlined in the report, which includes population size, demographics, geographic size, service scope, so the services you deliver and the levels to which you deliver those. And then lastly, we used all that information, our understanding of your context and how you perform against your peers, and how you deliver services, to identify the potential improvement opportunities. And we've taken it one additional step, which we want to share with you today, which is we've ranked it down to, I think, 8 key areas where we believe we want to go into some depth in the next phase of the project and really understand what those look like and what those can yield for you in terms of cost savings or efficiency gains, or even just better risk management for the municipality. And so, Lauren, we were in sync there. You can, or Yael, you can go to the next one. So what I want to leave you with off this slide is just what our main takeaways are from the current state, and how we see Essex based on what we've come to understand and what we see as potential improvement opportunities. The first thing is you've achieved strong financial health and sustainability by building up your reserves and outperforming the recommended targets for operating surplus. As you know, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing benchmarks municipalities against 5 main areas of performance. You exceed the minimum benchmarks in all those areas. Also, when compared to your peer comparators, you outperform your peer comparators across those benchmarks as well. So financially, you're a very healthy municipality. You have strong reserves in place, and you're on a sustainable financial footing. And so that's a credit to council and to the administration for all the hard work that you've been doing. Also in terms of your debt load, you have sustainable debt management. Your challenge going forward, particularly as you do begin to grow and you are growing, is to balance funding capital projects with a mix of prudent reserve planning, but also understanding where it makes sense to venture to help finance some of the infrastructure that you're going to need. A part of that too is not looking for opportunities, but having the town continue to evolve its asset management plan and its asset management planning capacity, to ensure that it's on top of its capital expenditures, and not just the new infrastructure that will need to be put in place, but how you're sustaining your existing infrastructure and ensuring it's affordable over the long term, and replacing it when appropriate, and doing that through better asset management planning. You have made investments in your human capital, and we believe you should continue to focus on enhancing training and professional development and performance management to achieve maximum organizational capacity, and making sure that your people are deployed to higher order work that delivers the quality of the service and the customer experience that you're looking to have your residents receive at the end of the day. When we look at your staff complement relative to your peer comparators, you're a fairly lean organization, and continuing to invest in your human capital is one way to continue to ensure you are lean, and that you're getting the most out of the folks that you have. As you know, it's a really rough and tumble marketplace for good, high quality municipal staff. And so being focused on training and professional development and performance management, amongst the other things that you do to put together a package as an employer, is really, really, really key to retaining your high quality staff. As you know, you receive significant revenue from the OMPF compared to your peers, and your you relative to your peers, you generate the least amount of revenue from your property tax base, and you're obviously, given the assessment mix in the town, more reliant on residential property taxes to fund the services that you deliver. You're financially healthy and sustainable, but the OMPF is always one of those things that is perennially seems to be at risk of government funding cuts or reductions. And so keeping an eye on your revenue mix and ensuring that you're preparing for any additional shocks that may come down the pipe. Nobody was expecting COVID, but COVID's going to have reverberations for years to come, is going to be important for you to ensure that over the long term you have a handle on your financial sustainability. The other thing too, and one of the things that was interesting about this service delivery review, is looking at opportunities for regional collaboration. And certainly, as I've been telling people, other clients, and as I've told Chris, and I think I may have said to some of you on the phone when we interviewed you earlier on in the summer, is that the municipal modernization funding from the province is not free. They're looking to provide municipalities with this money, looking for them to become more efficient, not only within their own four walls, but looking at where there are opportunities to collaborate with other municipalities to stretch taxpayers' dollars as far as possible. And that is perhaps, I don't think the government was this prescient at the time, but certainly coming out of COVID, that becomes even more important. So we think there are opportunities for shared services initiatives across your neighbors on the South Shore. There are also, we think, based on the level of interest with your other municipalities, if it's not there, there's probably also more that the county can do to ensure that municipalities across the region are sharing more services to stretch every possible tax dollar and get better value for money. And so this understanding shaped how we looked at some of the improvement opportunities. And with that, I'll just pause here to see if there are questions from council on kind of our high level findings or takeaways from our understanding of the town's current state. No questions? We're doing a great job so far. That's great. Next slide. So when we looked at all the opportunities for improvement that came out of that have come out of our assessment thus far, what we've done is, and the way we'll take you through them is we tend to contextualize them in the context of something called our municipal target operating model. And it's basically a fancy way of saying, what needs to be true from governance all the way through to frontline delivery to actually deliver a high quality service. And so our recommendations for the purposes of this presentation, so that we can get through them all, are bucketed in the context of 4 areas of the operating model that we look at when we look at a municipality. The first is governance and strategy. The big question that is always answered here is, where does Essex want to go and how will it get there? The second element is people and culture. And here we're looking at the right type and level of human capital to achieve the municipality's goals and to support its core business. Does it have the leadership and support the physical environment to encourage a strong workforce and one in which people are thriving and delivering to the extent of their capabilities? The third element of this target operating model is service delivery itself. How does Essex deliver on its core business for the services that it's responsible for? Does it have the right service mix to achieve its goals, both in terms of what we deliver with our own resources, what we may contract out, what levels are we delivering these to? Are we delivering it to the statutory minimum, or are we delivering it to a consciously decided service level that meets the expectations of our residents? And then the fourth area of the service delivery models on processes and technology. So do you have sufficient and appropriate internal processes and supporting technology to advance your service delivery goals and priorities? And so this is a way for us to think through some of the opportunities for improvement. And what we'll do is we'll go into those here. And I'll start with the governance and strategy opportunities for improvement. And in the long document that you do have, all these are set out on their own and they're each numbered. And so in grouping these for the purposes of presentation today, if you're following along with the long document, the opportunity number is in the right-hand column, and we'll speak to each improvement opportunity under each of the target operating model sections. So the first improvement area, and there are two recommendations that lend themselves to this improvement area, opportunities 4 and 22, is around enterprise risk management and asset management. More and more managing of risks and ensuring that you're taking steps to mitigate key risks that a municipality faces is really important. It is actually just as important as it is to maintaining costs, a handle on costs of service delivery, or maintaining a handle on your ability to generate revenue. And few, if any, municipalities the size of Essex have an enterprise resource management policy. Outside of the big cities in Ontario, very few have this. One of the things we're trying to encourage municipalities of all sizes to have an enterprise risk management policy, and to really understand the risks that are associated with being a municipality and the services that you deliver. And so we think there's an opportunity for you to be a leader here. And you also have a high level of tangible assets compared to your peers, and a high OMPF allocation, both of which inherently carry risks that you'll want to be conscious of, and you'll want to be working with administration to make sure you're on top of. So having a policy and understanding the risks and understanding your tolerance for some of these and your appetite for risk is we think is a really important opportunity and needs to be part of your overall toolkit for managing the overall sustainability of the place. The second piece is around asset management. Essex's most recent asset management plan was developed in 2015 and updated in 2017. As you know, a strong asset management plan is critical to long-term financial planning to smooth out the significant and large costs that come with your assets, not just your new planned assets, but your existing assets that you already have in inventory. It's also important to be on top of this, and not only to manage what the impact is going to be on the property tax base and how you're going to build your reserves and how you're going to balance that against any debt financing you may want to do to do the investments. It's also important too, because it's a mandatory criterion for provincial funding, for provincial capital funding. So having a good handle and advancing your asset management practices along with enterprise risk management are two additional keys to ensuring that you're appropriately managing the place and have a handle on its long-term sustainability. The second area for improvement and the opportunities that are related to this are opportunities 2 and 3 of the long document, is around supporting long-term strategy with clear implementation plans. Our finding in speaking to folks is that departmental level planning processes aren't always clearly aligned to the strategy and the priorities that are set within the organization. And we're not saying that Essex is doing a bad job, because the great thing about a budget process is it always forces a conversation around where scarce resources are going to go relative to priorities. But we think there are ways of enshrining more disciplined processes so that there is always a clear cascade from what what council has through its strategic plan said are of strategic importance, cascade all the way down to the front line, and that the organization itself is aligned in delivering on the overall strategy. And the third area for, sorry, Lauren, it flipped accidentally. There we go. And the third area for improvement is internal and external communications of corporate strategic direction. And these lend themselves to opportunities 1, 10, and 16, which are in the longer document. In terms of the staff council relationship, it's been recognized that existing training efforts have had positive impacts in both administration and council. Through our interviews with you, identified the need for continuing to do additional training to ensure that council is giving is setting the strategic priorities and giving clear direction to administration, and that administration is appropriately accountable to council in the delivery of those priorities. That is something that is not unique to you. It's a relationship that always needs work. It's in a number of other service delivery reviews, we were actually encouraging council as well to take more charge of its own education and training, because you play very important roles as governors in carving out time to understand how the organization works, or to understand things that are coming at the organization. We think is an important better practice that certainly the town of Essex would benefit from. In terms of cross-departmental coordination, we think there's an opportunity for the departments to work across the silos and to work to make sure that they're collaborating where they can, particularly around the budget process, so that everybody understands what goes into that, understands across the table, certainly at the senior management level, the trade-offs that are being made in order to get to a budget that is sustainable, and what that means for service delivery at the end of the day. And then lastly, communications. We're recommending the development of a communications toolkit that will support individual departments to better communicate what they do, and better communicate the alignment of what they do with the strategic plan, both internally and externally. Before we talk about people and culture, I'll just stop there to see if councillors have questions on some of those improvement opportunities.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. I had really, I guess, detailed notes, but the presentation's in a little bit different order. So, so bear with me. I really like the toolbox, the communication toolbox, freeing up some of our our communications director's time. I also really like, maybe our communications manager, like I would love our departments to have, in our council members, to have more of their own words. For example, when you go to a ribbon cutting, can you use your own words? So that's one thing, maybe to free up that position's time. I understand the messages, but maybe they can just be brief. So I'm trying to think, I'm sorry, are we on? Okay. Our asset management, I think maybe we could talk about that at some point with council, like where are we, where are our next steps? Because I think we're doing a fantastic job in terms of that. I think it's one of our strengths. So I'm looking to see where we're going. And the strategy for our strategic plan, I really love that idea. I think our strategic plan, I've kind of said from the beginning that it's really lofty. There's so many things in there. I think we have to narrow them down. Staff council relationships. One thing there is that I really agree with the more training. I believe counselors, there's accessibility training that we can do in our own time. There's a notice of motion going forward for our next council meeting, because that's something we can do. In terms of leaving operations to staff, like as a counselor now, I've been here 10 years, 11 years. I really don't want to spend time as a council getting lectured of leaving operations to staff. Like I'm not at the harbor, bossing people around. And if I talk about operations, it's because the operations aren't working. So if that is an issue that is coming to administration as a collective, I would think that perhaps our administration can deal with the one-offs. If there's a situation, let the counselor know, or whoever it is, that, hey, this is operational, because that's happened to me before. But in terms of, being lectured, leave operations to staff, I think we have to narrow down how much training we're going to do. We would do better having diversity training, accessibility training, those types of trainings. So that's all I have for now, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council members? If not, we're going to move forward.
Okay, great. And thanks, Counselor. And I agree with you. And the staff council relationships is always a tricky one. It's you know, when we typically advise on this, it's being very clear about who does what, and then, you know, not when something is asked to be done, you know, what is the report back mechanism for that? What kind of performance measures are we, you know, when are we checking in? Those types of things are really important, right? And the other thing that we are recommending to councils is, and this we do a lot with not-for-profit in private sector boards of governors, is, you know, leading governance practice is actually carving out time for your own education. And that maybe you want to understand how certain things work in the planning department better, right? So you're in a better position to talk to residents or understand what's coming before you. It may be things like, you know, asset management planning. It may be what's the post-COVID world going to mean for the municipal sector. So it's within council's, power as the governors of a municipality to say, you know what, we want to carve out some time on a quarterly basis, and, you know, let's agree on the subjects we want to, you know, brief ourselves up on, and that only helps strengthen you and your capacity as a councillor and your ability to provide governance and oversight and to administration. Lauren, did you want to take over on people and culture?
Remember to go off mute. Okay. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, I'll jump into people and culture, where our first improvement area focuses on opportunities 5, 6, and 7, and looks at a comprehensive HR strategy with updated and standardized workforce policies. So as already mentioned, we heard some concern around staff retention, professional development, and succession planning, especially with respect to retiring staff, and a clear plan for staff growth to enable promotions and hiring from within, promotions from within, would help reduce overall turnover. The next point that we had was assessing opportunities for new and upgraded facilities, and this is focused on opportunity 12. You'll see that this opportunity comes up both in people and culture and service delivery, because we found that it affects both the internal staff and external resident experience. We heard from staff specifically that there is a fairly strong level of dissatisfaction with the current physical work environment, even though that has changed in the past couple months from working from home. But it is known that physical working environment is a critical factor to employee engagement, satisfaction, and productivity. And then beyond this level of comfort, there are also actual productivity barriers related to certain teams being physically separated. So that's something we heard and is something we think requires further investigation. Our third point on this slide, and this kind of covers a range of different opportunities in the detailed report, 13, 15, 18, 19, and 20. The first, this is looking at conducting a review of key organizational design components. And the first point here relates to the clerk and administrative support model. What we heard is that currently clerks are quite specialized in their roles, which can result in some knowledge fragmentation. And there are also 2 reception desks. So this can create process duplication and resident confusion. We also observed that in certain instances, there is some excess administrative capacity, while in other departments there could be increased capacity. For example, additional support for the CAO and mayor, like some of the peer comparators have. And we feel that a review of these opportunities might really reveal efficiencies and a more streamlined client experience. The second piece here is there were questions about the placement of some of the functions within their current department, such as HR and facilities. And based on comparators and leading practice, we felt that these changes, although they've been discussed in the past, might require either further monitoring or exploration, because they might result in improved workflow. So I can pause there.
Questions? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. HR underneath our director of corporate services was something when we did that last time. I believe there was a few of us on council, and I'm ringing a bell that it might have been the mayor, but I'm not speaking for him. But there was a few of us that think that was a good fit. So I think that reviewing that is good. Centralization under one roof. I don't know. Like we seem to be. This report seems to go back to centralization a lot, and it says resident frustration. But to be fair, there's also, residents in Harrow and Colchester that feel some sort of frustration for having an hour round trip, right? And now, because of COVID, I don't know if centralization is the be all and end all. Everybody driving to one place to check in the morning. It's kind of like what's happening with our OPP, right? I don't know if centralization is the best there. So once or twice the report said resident frustration. I'm wondering where that came from. Because I don't believe our residents were interviewed. Like, where is it? Are our staff relaying that message that the residents are flustered?
Yeah, that's correct. We did not speak to your residents, but this is been passed on through interviews, a workshop, and a survey directly to staff. And it was something that came up just a few times.
Okay, and thank you. Just further to that, then I want to also express that there's resident frustration that we have to drive an hour round trip. Thank you.
Anyone else? Question? Okay, back to you, Lauren.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Processes and technology. So the town is already focused on improving IT processes and tools, but there were some particular areas that were discussed as priorities during our engagement. There are currently many services that still require in-person payment, and the expansion to more online capabilities that was actually expedited during COVID. People commented that they'd like to see this continued and built upon. So there's one point there. Expanded use of the new customer relationship management software. So we know that you have a new software, but just making sure that more people who interact with customer service are trained up on it and can use it, which will just inevitably lead to additional collaboration and better communication, as well as timelier resolution of issues, both internally and externally. And then we also have a point on the fact that the town manages records with both paper-based and digital processes, but there's no central location for storing all information, making it quite time-consuming to access records. And this is really a problem that we're seeing across a bunch of our clients. So many of your peers are currently working to address this issue now as well. Okay. Our next improvement area is, sorry, I didn't refer to the opportunity numbers in the first one, but this one is looking at 11, 23, and 24. And they focus on formalizing and updating outdated service models and standard operating procedures consistently across the organization. So something that we heard was that there are standard operating procedures that are not consistently documented across all divisions and departments, and this can create a challenge for training new staff, and it can also create a lack of transparency into some of the more complex projects. And again, I guess this is where you heard the frustrations point, but this is frustration internally, just not being able to have clear line of sight always into the status of a project or things like that. And we believe that this could be addressed by just formalizing standard operating procedures where appropriate. And then quite similar to the document management point above, it was pointed out that an example being the building division still encounters paper applications and hard copy plan drawings. So on top of this, archives are not scanned or searchable, and there are decades worth of documents to sort through. And so looking at processes and solutions to this kind of manual barrier would help improve service delivery across the department and where appropriate in other departments in the organization. Any questions there?
Questions from council members? I do have one question, Lauren. When you talk about difficulties in searching for records back where it says the town manages records with paper-based and digital processes,
Mm-hmm.
the difficulty in both instances or just the paper process?
So it's both. When there are physical documents, it actually takes a lot of time just to track those down and find them physically. But then in addition to that, there are different central databases in different departments. So while we would have to be aware of confidentiality and access issues, there's opportunity to actually create a more centralized database for all departments, because there are certain departments that require similar documentation and there's overlap. So just looking at where that process and pulling key documents to inform delivery would be a big time saver.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Lauren, back to you then. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving into service delivery. Again, back to point 12, opportunity 12, the facilities piece. This is already covered, but we heard that the lack of proper space can be an impediment to accessing services for customers. And it sounds like this is an issue of geographic nature, as well as just where each of the departments are situated. So that's just something that we heard and felt needed to be brought forward. And the next piece on service delivery is about establishing clear service levels for all services across the organization, and opportunities 14, 17, and 22 all touch on this. But having clear service levels is generally leading practice for municipalities and is believed to help improve service delivery. Service levels allow organizations to identify key improvement areas and track progress over time. So it's kind of just good hygiene to have those set and monitored. And in particular, it was mentioned that infrastructure services could benefit from implementing service standards and condition assessment ratings. That's by way of example, but there are other departments that could also benefit. And just part 2 of the service delivery category. There were several opportunities identified for shared service delivery and collaborative purchasing. So there's been some discussion amongst your leadership, as well as with some of our other clients that we're working with in the county, of a South Shore shared services initiative that would facilitate the sharing of certain assets and resources, such as HR, IT, finance, so some of the back office pieces, and potentially fire over time. And this would be shared with neighboring municipalities. And it is believed that through this type of collaboration, Essex can lower costs through economies of scale and scope, and may allow access to new revenue streams that require a critical mass of users or inputs. So that's something that we found very interesting and potentially a great opportunity. And then on the collaborative purchasing, we have noted that municipalities across Ontario have realized significant savings through collaborative purchasing. And I believe that Essex is already involved in some. So the opportunity here is to really pursue more if possible. And we just had an example here of the York Region N6 having found that they saved about 5 to 10% on sourcing services like audit, waste collection, training, insurance, and economic development. Any questions on service delivery?
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. For clear service levels, is an example like, the community service department will get back to the resident email in 72 hours. Like, what is an example of a service level that would be provided, please?
That is certainly one. So to the I don't think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a customer service policy with clear standards about when how long it will take a resident to get a response and how long it should take to resolve an issue. Generally, knowing there are things that will bounce outside. The other things too is winter conditions. How much snow has to fall before you send out the scrapers. Those types of things. It's not unusual in municipalities generally, but particularly smaller municipalities where everybody talks about service levels, but once you get to trying to actually enumerate those, they don't exist. They probably exist in somebody's head, or they exist based on the level of funding that the budget provides for. So each and every service you deliver ought to have a service level to it. Recreation would be another. How many programs and to what level are we delivering programs? Things of that nature.
Thank you. So further to that, I really like that idea, and I think that could tie up some of the issues that we have. For example, like a couple of years ago, we were talking about snow maintenance and the level of snow downtown, right? And we got into a big discussion at council for an hour because we didn't really have it defined. So, and I like that. And I've asked for a list of all the bylaws that need to be reviewed because it kind of goes hand in hand, right? We have a lot of antiquated bylaws. So once we get that done, then that will help this. So thank you.
Yeah, and Councillor, in other municipalities, what we've actually recommended is it's the same. It's the same problem. Bylaws are made, and some are some are delivered to and remain fresh. Some are never evergreened, and so we actually recommend over a 4-year cycle, every year reviewing X percent of your bylaws where there's a service delivery component to it to make sure that is that are we still delivering the service to this level? Do we still need to deliver the service to this level? If not, what how should we amend the bylaw, or how should we amend the service to make sure that we're hitting expectations and doing so in a financially sustainable way?
Thank you. Is that it, Councillor Bondi? Councillor Vanderdolen?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Chairman. On page 39, it says that these results are supposed to be submitted to the ministry in September. Was that last month, or was that September of 2021?
It was September of 2020, but because of COVID, the ministry extended the deadline to, I believe, mid-December, Councillor. So that is an old date. The ministry has extended the deadline to December.
So how long has this been sitting on a desk somewhere waiting to get to council? Which month was it ready to come to us?
So we've been working and going back and forth with staff on the draft. I believe we delivered it towards the end of July, and then spending most of the August and early September going back and forth on the content and getting some additional information to round out some of the analysis. And so a lot of this has been just back and forth, smoothing the edges of the analysis.
What obligation are we under to adopt any of these suggestions or recommendations?
You're not under any obligation, and so today's report is to be received as information. When we come back with our final report, I believe it'll be to be received as information, and given what the other municipalities are doing, Councillor is referring it to staff to come back with staff reports on what their views of the report and what they believe should be implemented, their recommendations to council, and then municipalities are factoring that into their budgeting processes and their planning processes based on staff advice and feedback.
So nobody has a stick to hold over us. Nobody has any leverage. It's just up to this council on a pure vote by vote basis how much of this we do.
So yes. But if you'll recall my earlier comments, Councillor, which is this money isn't for free from the province. So the province, is asking for a copy of the report for a reason. The province is giving the money for a reason, which is they do expect municipalities to be doing things to make themselves more efficient. It'll be up to you to agree or disagree with what we see as those opportunities and the prioritization of those. But for me to say that there's no stick out there in the distance would be, in my judgment, that would be foolish. There is a stick out in the distance, and those municipalities that are able to show that they've made the most of the modernization funding will be those that, if there ever is another round of amalgamation, let's say, they may be lower on the list of the of targets than others who decide not to take advantage of the opportunity. The other thing I would say too is there's future rounds of municipal modernization funding that will be made available, and that can be used for implementation purposes. So there is, adopting some of the recommendations coming out of our final report would certainly put you in good stead to take advantage of some of those dollars to support implementation.
Further, Councillor Vanderdoel?
Well, it seems a pretty vague threat. Weird that, pardon me, Deputy Mayor?
Just wondered if you had a continued
Hello?
question. Just wondering if you have a continued question.
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. Why is no mention, do we hear about sharing on the South Shore, but no mention is made sharing in the north half of the community? And no mention is made about the one area of the community where we actually do have service and infrastructure sharing in McGregor, and where it isn't working.
Yeah, so we see a lot of similarities with the South Shore. That's not to say that you don't have relationships with the North. It's the same in other municipalities that have relationships, whether it's with Lakeshore or Tecumseh or others. So we think there geographic logic to it, but fundamentally what we do believe is that more shared services are probably in the long-term interest. You're not a very big organization, you're a pretty lean organization. A lot of the things that we're looking at in terms of internal improvements are probably efficiency gains, and so not necessarily bottom line dollars. Where we think there are going to be opportunities for you to get cost reduction is to try to do some of these things on a broader scale with some of your neighbors. The other thing we looked at, and one of the, we could just as easily say it should be done for the county and maybe even through the county. Our sense of it is that the county may not be there psychologically to do more than it already does, but we certainly think some of the bigger opportunities for you to stretch your taxpayer dollars is to look at more shared service opportunities with neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors that wish to? Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Vanderdolen, for posing a couple of questions that were weighing heavy on my mind as well. So where Councillor Vanderdolen just brought us to this piece about, between administration and the strategy core, you have decided that the South Shore shared services is pretty significant to it throughout this report. But there's no mention of McGregor. So say the majority of council feel like maybe if we're going to be looking at opportunities for shared services, maybe McGregor or North Shore, North Side is more relevant. Is that done? We have received this report and we're going to have some give and take, but the final draft that is presented to the province on our behalf is what administration and you come up with? Or
no.
Like, are we having more than those phone calls we received in June or July? Like,
yeah.
Is there an opportunity for us to influence the report that's submitted to the province any more than what we have?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons why, we wanted to bring the current state and where we see the improvement opportunities and how we shape those to council is to precisely get this kind of feedback. If councillor, we wanted to say, don't constrain yourself to the South Shore, look at where shared services makes sense across county with neighbors, an initiative to look at any neighbor where it makes sense, so that you get the benefit of the shared services. And so this is a key point to influence what kind of work we'll do in the next phase. And by all means, what it comes forward as a final report for your consideration. The council has the ability to accept or reject, or tell us even to go back and fix something.
You good, Councillor Verbeek? Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just some comments to make. The idea of sharing services with other municipalities is always a good idea. And the problem usually comes in the implementation of doing such a thing. If you look in the past, the various towns or entities that are next to us tend to have their own idea of service delivery, and that they don't always match. Some of the areas where we can get together, I think, is on purchasing. I know the idea of fire across the thing has made a lot of sense for a lot of years, but nobody's had the I guess, willingness to give up their own little fiefdom for the greater area. But that also comes with some issues, because when you get a bigger service, and let's use an idea of a wider fire service, that's going to increase the number of full-time employees. So you tend to create a bigger upper echelon of employees, and you basically still have the same number of people on the street. The saving really comes in the equipment you're using, and you really have to look at that. Does it outweigh, whatever you're proposing? The various municipalities in the past have been pretty stubborn on that, and if we'd have had a single tier government in the area a long time ago, and it just wouldn't fly then. And now most of those politicians have disappeared from the scene, so it's a whole new generation. But there's still that underlying feeling, I think, in some. But there's more willingness to share services and moving that forward. The danger of it is creating a huge upper tier organization that will be heavier in management people as you move forward. So no matter what I just use fire as an example, but it could be anything. I'm sure there's scales and savings, especially on purchasing. When you're buying stuff, you're buying in bulk, it gets cheaper. So that's really a no-brainer, and we haven't been able to do that. Sharing technical services probably is the greatest area we have to look forward to those type of things that would save us money. And I think moving forward, that makes a whole lot of sense. There was some mention earlier about it always comes back to our town hall facility. It obviously is lacking, and we've known that for a number of years. It would certainly be nice if some of the monies that would come forward to put this new system in place would include monies for a new town hall. So that might be the positive in our plan. So just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. CEO Nepsy.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to add, I know I've heard a couple points already on McGregor and the lack of McGregor or Coan Park being there. But when they consider the South Shore model, it includes our neighbor municipalities, which includes Amherstburg. Coan Park is shared service with Amherstburg. So that was something that is captured Quant Park is specifically captured as far as program delivery within that South Shore model. So it's not something that wasn't looked at or is missed. It's actually in contained within that section of the I guess of the review. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? See any hands? So Lauren, we'll go back to you.
All right. So of the 34 opportunities that we identified in the current state report, we've identified a preliminary shortlist of high impact opportunities to be developed more fully in the next phase of the project. And right now we have 8. Some of these opportunities, as we investigate further, might be grouped together should logical synergies become apparent. But we are, as of now, looking at the piece on customer relationship management and just making sure that the right people are trained up on it since the investment has already been made in implementing it. Assessing opportunities for new upgraded facilities, including a new town hall, and develop an accommodation policy, making sure that the workplace is accessible. Reviewing the current complement of clerks and considering increased centralization and generalization of the clerk function. And connected to this could be seeing if capacity could be redistributed to provide the CAO and mayor with increased support. So that's where there are already some synergies emerging. The next point is updating the asset management plan and supporting reserve policy. And as Councillor Bondi pointed out, this is a strong point for the town. So just making sure that is clear what the next steps on that process are. Further exploration of cost recovery improvements and potential impacts on key development services. So we were just finding that development services is not receiving the return on some of its investments, and this might be connected to the waiving of development charges, but we just think that the report that was done, I think a couple of years ago to suggest this should just be monitored and reviewed, because we are just noticing that there is a lack of return there. And the last point is that South Shore shared services, and as Chris just pointed out, that would look at the South Shore of the county and potentially others over time. And that's our initial shortlist. And maybe I'll stop there for questions or comments.
Another question?
Yep. And so Deputy Mayor further, and this is our opportunity.
Chris, you're frozen or you're breaking up here. Nobody caught anything of what you just stated.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I tried threatening my kids over text to get off their PS4s, so I apologize for that. This is our opportunity, if these aren't resonating with council, to recalibrate on some of them, but these are the things that we propose to work up in some detail and make concrete recommendations and quantify efficiency or cost savings to be had by the town.
Okay. I think I've seen Councillor Bondi had a question. Councillor
Yes.
Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just again, feedback. I did go through my report thoroughly and I wrote notes, but it is hard to follow when it's presented in a different format. But I will go through my notes as best as I can. And again, right, it was a holiday weekend for council too. So getting the report 3:30 Friday kind of may squash. And we're also missing our mayor. We're missing a big, the chair of our council. So I don't know what the consultants can do for feedback there, but I do have a couple other points here. Regional collaboration procurement support. Absolutely. I think that's a good idea. Fire services. I'm not sure that's even feasible or what that looks like. You know, our fire services, is any municipality moving to union? For example, say if Amherstburg moved to a unionized environment and then we joined with Amherstburg, what does that mean for our firefighters? Are we looking for full-time firefighters? You know, the implementation of it, I just see as a nightmare, right? I think our fire department is doing really well right now. We're getting our assets in good shape. We have the mutual aid agreements. I just don't know, other than management, shared management, maybe a shared trainer. That might be a good idea, but I don't know about the rest of the fire department. I'm done getting a cold feeling on that. The building inspector, we tried that. I don't know what happened with that. Council still, I don't even know if council really even knows, but we did have a building inspector retire. We talked about having that. I know council of the day, I believe it was last term of council, talked about having that building inspectors on an on-call basis. That fell through. I don't really know, but I really like that idea. I believe that building inspector is working in another municipality, so another municipality was able to figure that out. So I do like that idea, because this summer, our chief building official has a lot of vacation. So this summer I was getting messaged 2 or 3 times a week about backlogs. And I understand that COVID was a big part of that backlog. But if we want our municipality to grow, bringing in more support, even on a contract temporary basis in that department, I think would be really good. The executive assistant for the mayor and the CAO, I think we have to be mindful of that. I'm not in support of that unless it's in-house, you know, with some of the clerk's hours. I could, you know, be okay with that if it's going to streamline and make it easier there. But I certainly don't want to add a new position and pay 3 people to do the job that we currently have of 2, right? For example, you know, our mayor could send out mayor's memo emails saying, you know, council, this is what's going on. And our mayor, in theory, could alleviate some of the communication coming from the CAO, right? So we have a deputy CAO and we have a part-time executive assistant for the CAO, which is new. So if we add a standalone position for that, we will be criticized badly. So, and it seems like a lot of issues that we have comes down to records management and organization. If we invest in the records management, then we'll have a clear roadmap and we'll be more efficient. You know, pulling records will help us and we'll get more organized. So other than that, that's all I have right now. I would like to add some more once I hear back from other council members, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bondi. Any further comments? Looking, I don't see anything. Mr. CAO, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think it's important to note, like these. I don't disagree with you, Councillor Bondi, in terms of, especially, you know, the DEA support to the CAO and Mayor, and that's something. You know, I've had that 30% EA for less than or around a year now. It's something that we're working into. These are, I guess, I'm just stressing, these are the opportunities that consultants come up with based on everything they've seen in other municipalities that they've done this and whatnot. So it's something I think to continue to explore and work through with council. These aren't something, as they noted, that, you know, we've got to go and approve and all of them. Move forward that way. I think it's something we can pull out pieces that will work for us to continue to improve our service delivery here, both internally and externally. So, thanks.
Thank you. Chris or Lauren, any?
Yeah, what I would just say in terms of, you know, specific positions, you know, we'll look at the organization, but our first thing is to understand what can we do in terms of process improvements or efficiencies to actually free up capacity that can be redeployed to areas in the organization where it's needed. We don't go right to a net new position, but we try to find where there's latent capacity that can be freed up through improving processes or better use of technology, so that could redeploy people's capacity to higher value added work. So just to reassure the counselor, we don't just jump right at you should hire a bunch of new people, and it actually comes from looking at the capacity where it is within the organization, how it might be able to be freed up and be redeployed to other work requirements within the organization.
Councillor, I'll go to CAO Chris.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor again. Another thing I think for council to understand, I mean, these are opportunities for improvement. With each opportunity, there's a potential it's a resource shift or requires new resources. And that's where we look into the next phases. It's easy to say, sure, let's do X, Y, Z. But what does that mean for the municipality? What does that mean for the organization? Does X, Y, Z come with a resource price tag of, X, right? Where we're, oh, geez, yeah, we'd love to do that, but it costs this much. And we have to then determine, is that the value that we need? Is that the direction we need to move forward? Some of it, yes, some of it's a shift in strategy, a shift in how we're operating. And there are no resources cost to those, but I think it's mindful of, this is phase one. We look at this as an opportunity to explore, look into phase two, and that's where we kind of, I think, get into the details of, okay, well, this is what it really means, and this is what it, whether it's fire, like you said, are there too many hurdles? What are the hurdles? Maybe we don't feel like jumping over any hurdles for that as a municipality, as a council. So I guess just a reminder that this is phase one, and there's still more work to be done.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Verbeek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I just heard something a little different from both Chris's. Chris, our CAO, was saying that this is stage one, and there's much work to be done on it. But I feel like, didn't Chris L just say that, like, this is it for the council, and then no.
No. So there's a next step, counselor. Yeah.
Right. But tonight is when, if we had concerns with what we received this weekend, tonight is what our opportunity to bring that forth, right? There will be more opportunities.
It's one of the opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I would say is we're always open to suggestions, counselor. So if as you're distilling this, something comes up, we're happy to receive more feedback. That's not a problem. Yeah, absolutely.
I was a little overwhelmed this weekend with too many prior commitments. But I do want to comment on
socially distanced, of course, right?
Absolutely. I have a giant yard and a garage.
Excellent.
I pool noodles like everybody. So about, just because Councillor Bondi brought it up and our CAO was commenting about the position for an assistant to the mayor and the deputy, or to the CAO. I just, what jumped out at me in my, read through was you would probably both have a fair amount of time freed up if you didn't have to weed through all of our correspondence from council to all of our department heads and staff. If we did not have to CC the CAO and the mayor in absolutely every email we had with the staff member, it might be a little easier for them. They would have a lot less to weed through.
For what are the efficiency opportunities to support that position and others? All I'll say is, we think there's capacity that can be freed up to provide better support. At the end of the day, your CAO is typically in a municipality your highest paid employee. You expect higher order value out of that person. Having an admin assistant that they can keep track of things, run down things, particularly requests from council. Where are we at on dealing with that request from Councillor Verbeek? Has she been given the response? Is she satisfied with the response? Do we need to do follow-up? Those types of things. make a lot of sense. But like I said, we don't start with, yes, you got to have this. We're looking at capacity. We think there's capacity available within the organization. We'll make some recommendations and to demonstrate that there is a cost benefit to investing in a new position. As with all of these things, what you'll see in the next phase of the report is that cost benefit analysis on these opportunities and our recommendation on whether or not they make sense to pursue. And then ultimately it'll be up to council on the advice of their staff as to what you ultimately pursue in the end.
Is it good, Councillor Verbeek? Okay, thank you. So I'll go back to Chris Loretto. So one of the concerns I hear from some of the council members is that there wasn't a long enough opportunity to review perhaps this report, because the report that we have is a lot longer than the report you presented tonight. It was 110 pages long.
Yeah, we didn't want to take everybody through page by page. Deputy Mayor, we apologize for that.
That's no problem. But just with that said, there was a lot of information to digest over the weekend. And so we know you're moving to stage 2. How long does council have to put forth some different ideas other than what you're having here, or comment? You know, like once they take a look at what you presented tonight, how long do they have to comment or possibly look for a different direction or further information on what you've presented tonight before you start moving on this?
What I would say is, Deputy Mayor, if it's sufficient, if we could get feedback from councillors kind of end of day Monday, that should give folks, I don't want to ruin your weekend again with a 109-page report, but if folks can provide us with their feedback and their thoughts by end of day Monday, that will give us time to factor that in, recalibrate where we need to. We'll let you know where we're recalibrating, and then we can go and get under way with the next phase in earnest.
Okay, I think that's probably more comfortable for, so at least we have a date now, council, that they're looking for us to have a review finished of what we've seen tonight and to comment any further if we have any further comments. All good? Any further comments? Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor. I'm going through my my notes here. I like how that elk is in there, and in looking at that. Also, recently the OPP. I find that they're really stepping up. That could be to do with the Leamington, or that could be to do with the new police board chair. I'm not sure, but I think that that's one thing that if we decide to have the regional police conversation, I have no idea how we would get policing cheaper than what we have now. So I think that this is an area of caution that if we as a council decide to go with, I think that we need to do it very cautiously. And I'm not sure that this is the term of council to do it, considering the charges on somebody on our council. So I know that was looked at as a cost saving if the complaints came up. So I just want to be careful of that one. Sharing assets with the neighbors, point 27. I just have a note here. Crossing guards, animal control. Crossing guards, we can't even get them in our urban centers. We are not ever going to get a crossing guard from Amherstburg or Kingsville to drive to Harrow. So I think we scratched that one right off our list. It's a job nobody wants to do. And the amount of people messaging me about that are proof. Animal control. I would love to see it as the counselor on the animal control board recently for the last 10 years. I'd love to see that, but it's not. I would say to this council, and I don't think I'm wrong here, but I would say that we're not going to get a cheaper model than the Lakeshore Dog Pound. It's a very cheap model. We could look to see what the cost is per year for the town of Amherstburg and look there. But I mean, I'm an animal lover, and I would love to have a new model just for the animals, but it's not going to be cheaper. I'm also hesitant to get into working relationships with municipalities on recreational programs. I think we lead the pack in recreational programs. So why would we, share those ideas? I mean, I'm not necessarily saying share those ideas, but sometimes you want unique programs in your town. So that's why residents from different towns will go to our town, and that's why residents from our town will go to different towns, is because we have different programming ideas. So I like that different programming ideas that we have. And plus, families don't want to drive. So fleet sharing, wear and tear, time and use, is that, I saw the shoulder, the shoulder, I don't know, something in there for paving the shoulders. We own one now. We know the mileage that's on it. We know the work that's done on it. That is kind of beneficial to us. We can use it anytime we want, rather than say we lend it out to another municipality. Our public works department has something they want to do and they're not there. So now we're inconvenienced. So looking at the report, our public works department runs very lean. Like, I don't know. I would really like to see how many areas Essex can really improve. We're doing really well in asset management. We're doing really well in our infrastructure. I would say records keeping, absolutely. But I think we're doing really well. And I wouldn't want to, not that I wouldn't want to share how well we're doing with other municipalities, but I wouldn't want it to drag us down and to not be as efficient as we are, because everything I read in this report is pretty good. And last night I took a peek at the Kingsville one, and I took a peek at the Amherstburg one as well. And I found it really interesting that the Amherstburg one that was presented in July to the town of Amherstburg didn't have the municipality of Essex as a comparator. And I'm wondering why, maybe because, I don't know, I think we are leading the way in the South Shore. So I think we continue to do what we're doing well. I think we need to have more conversations as a group on some of these topics, because these are really good topics that they've brought forward to us. And I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bondi. Anyone else? Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malash. Through you. So, first of all, what was the date again for the final submission that has to be submitted? What was that date?
It's Lauren, December 15th, something like that.
Yeah, it's been moved to December, early December. I think it's December 5th.
Okay. And then with respect to council feedback and thoughts between now and next Monday, are we going to be expected to send our own thoughts via email, or will we be getting together as a council before next Monday to collaborate as a group and submit those as a group? I need a little direction on that too, please. Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that's something I think definitely to submit to the consultant, to Chris and his team, copy all of council with your comments. It's something that we can, I have to talk to Chris after this, but we do have a council meeting next Monday. So is it something that we can set aside, whether it's a half hour or whatnot, to discuss? If he's willing to do that, that's something we can look at. But I think by all means, send your comments ASAP to the consultant by email, and then copy council.
Councillor Guerin, is that good?
Well, under the time restraints, I guess so. I just thought this would be more of a team effort in what our wants and needs would be, and sure is a lot easier to be in one room discussing that as a whole, as opposed to each of us throwing our comments and thoughts out there. It's easier to get on the same page if we're all together, but I understand the restraints. Maybe if another councillor feels the same or not, I don't know, but if it's going to be via email and copying everybody, then would we be able to see everybody's, I guess we'll be able to see everybody's emails, so I guess that would work.
Councillor or CEO Nepsy?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, again, thank you. I think it's important to note as well that these are the consultant's recommendations, right? And it's, although they're going to take the input and the, direction from council, ultimately this is their document that they're providing us an opportunity. So I think as far as what council is looking to do is comment on their recommendations and what they've come forward with, and have them explore these opportunities for potentially some other things. And I don't know if Chris wants to comment on how that works in other municipalities or as far as that direction goes.
Yeah, so in deference to council, if there are things that are in the report that you would rather see prioritized over the things that we've identified as pieces that we want to take in the next phase, we're open to that, and we're open to recalibrating our plan. The challenge will be if there's anything net new that we haven't considered in the current state. I would just say it would be very difficult for us to go outside of what we've already reviewed and what we are already recommended. But with the opportunities that we have identified, if you want certain ones swapped in and others swapped out for the purposes of the next phase, we're open and happy to receive council's feedback on that.
Thank you. Mr. Chris Loretto as well. Is there any chance that we could get a copy of this 11-page?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll circulate. We'll send it in, and Chris, Chris, if it's okay, we'll send it to you to be distributed to council.
Sure. That'd be great. Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council members?
Hi, Deputy Mayor. This is Steve, Councillor Bjorkman.
Hi, Steve. Go ahead, Councillor Bjorkman.
Can you hear me there okay? Yeah, I'm sorry I missed a little bit of the meeting, and I'm very frustrated because all of my notes are at home. I expected to be there tonight following along. But I would just like to address the idea of, as we're looking at the regional perspective, I think we have a lot of fears that when we go regionally, we start giving up our autonomy, and suddenly some of the things that we're doing well, maybe we're not going to have the same funding. Everybody looks at amalgamation and thinks, every group in amalgamation feels like they lost. They don't feel like they've won. But I think going forward, even to Councillor Bondy's statements about how we're doing so well and leading in a lot of areas, and we are, and our administration has done a great job putting us in those positions. But the other communities will catch up, and people will see what's happening, and economies of scale are just a fact. It's just cheaper when you buy 100 of something instead of 10 of something. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that the things that we go after and that we investigate this are those things that are economies of scale. Our asset management plan will always be our asset management plan. We're not going to share our tax money or the funds that we put aside. But there are ways for us to really interact with the other municipalities in this county and get some good bang for our buck. So I like that that's in there, and I think that needs to continue to be one of the things at the top of the list for us, because what we can deliver to our community from that, I think will really give us an opportunity to save money and put it into places that we believe we need to spend those things. So I liked the report. I didn't see the 11-pager. I followed along as best I could with the other report that I have here, and I appreciate the opportunity to put more input in during this week. And I think what Joe was saying, it's a great idea to copy all of us, because there will be common threads. There'll be things we're looking at. We're going to be sending these things as individuals, but we will see those common ideas that will get to the consultants, and they'll be able to massage that in the way that we're looking for it to be directed. So anyways, thank you for the time. A good presentation from what I heard, and look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Bjorkman. Anyone else? Okay, I just want to say thank you then this evening to Mr. Chris Loretto and his team. Lauren, you did a lot of the speaking as well. Thank you. But I know that your entire team sat through this with us. So thank you very much for being here with us tonight. And hopefully we can have another chat amongst ourselves, councillors and our administration, and get back to you by next Monday. Councillors or CAO Nepsy, did you have any final comment?
No, I don't. I thank council for their time tonight. I think it was a good discussion tonight. I look forward to seeing any adjustments or focus rearrangements that council may have over the next week. I'm looking to meet with Chris and team this week to look ahead to next steps, and then that next meeting potentially on Monday. So I'll set that up and we'll go from there.
Thank you. I need
Deputy
a-
Mayor,
Oh,
just
sorry. Councilor Bundy?
for clarification, are staff submitting recommendations too, or is it just council? And then I have one other housekeeping item, please.
Just Councilor Bundy.
Okay, and thank you. Just a request to the consultants and Essex administration. Can we have, before this comes back to us again, can we have a good window, like a 7 to 8 day window, please? When we get the next report, just out of respect for council members, holiday weekends and other jobs and stuff too. I want to be able to do a really good job and represent the people the way I want to, and I just need a little bit more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bundy. I need a motion to receive the public presentation from this evening. Moved by Councilor Guerin, supported by Councilor Bowman. All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. And I need a motion at this point in time to adjourn. Councilor Vanderdolen and Councilor Verbeek. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks like it's carried unanimously. Thank you. And thanks again to Chris and your team.
Thank you for having us, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks.